Big news. We have first and foremost a very big story that recently broke concerning 40,000 plus cast members at the Walt Disney World Resort. One of the biggest unions for Walt Disney World finally came to an agreement with the company on a furlough plan for its members. Unfortunately, it seems that there will indeed be more furloughs to come starting April the 19th. As we have covered here many times, both Disneyland Resort and the Walt Disney World Resort have been paying many of their cast members up until a certain point. They will now be moving to furlough additional cast members from coast to coast. On top of that, some of the perks that come along with it are that it looks like medical benefits are going to continue to be paid. Seniority will be kept intact. I know that when it comes to the Disneyland Resort, a security union as well as a food and beverage union have all come to terms with being furloughed at this point. Hourly non-union cast members, definitely folks that have already been given the furlough notice, as well as salaried individuals. So this just sort of rounds out the rest of it here as the Disney company continues to sort of brace for impact as this unprecedented time continues to roll on when it comes to the global pandemic. Guys, when it comes to Walt Disney World, now coming out with one of their biggest employee unions coming to terms, food and beverage at Disneyland, security at Disneyland. Sounds like more of the same week to week, but certainly something that kind of nice to hear that medical benefits will continue to be paid, seniority will be kept. They're going to do as much as they can to make this as easy as possible, just without the paycheck. What do you think about that, Tyler?
I mean, it's unfortunately what has to happen. I feel that, again, we talked about this last week a little bit too, but I feel that if they were to continue paying people all through this pandemic, there wouldn't be a whole lot to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
You would lose certain benefits, you would lose some of your pay possibly if, as a cast member. So unfortunately, this is kind of what has to happen so that Disney can remain in the position that they're in. It sounds like a selfish thing for them when you first think about it, but they really do have to support 10 capable of doing that when they reopen, then it's going to affect a lot more people than just that company. So it's nice that they're keeping the medical benefits. I think that's a great thing. I've seen a lot of people, union members or team members, I should say, past the 19th, and I see a lot of people getting upset about that why can't Disney do that? But you got to remember that Disney has a lot more employees than Universal does at these when it comes to all the parks and everything. So unfortunately, it's something that has to happen.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, it looks like everyone who has insurance is going to keep it for the duration of the furlough, up to 12 months, including all of full-time and part-time workers, which I think is fantastic to hear. It does say that Disney will be paying 100% of their insurance, so they won't owe any back payments, which I think is also a huge plus here. It's not something I think a lot of folks think about when they go into furlough, because how many people truly ever get furloughed in a situation like this? So nice to hear that. While Florida and California are continuing to brace for impact, both of these coasts are trying to make this as easy as possible on all the cast members affected. Even though it's hard to say goodbye at any point, it's hard to say, hang in there and put yourself in a holding pattern for a while. Many of these cast members, as we've talked about, they live paycheck to paycheck. They are folks that continue to just try to make ends meet anyway. So being furloughed really does mean that, they're probably just joining the unemployment line, most of them, and they're looking for their next paycheck in this regard. And I know that the company had been paying out weeks on weeks for many of their cast members across the country, and now knowing that more of these unions are joining them is a hard thing to hear. Garrett, this union, the STCU union, represents the majority of cast members in Walt Disney World. This is something that, as Walt Disney World continues to sort of struggle with what are they going to do in terms of handling all these employees, they continue to push forward with the Disney College program being canceled and pushed even further out and further out. I know that we've talked about this in recent weeks where the college program was let go, as well as professional internships and anybody that's sort of on a temporary basis with Disney, they've sort of been let go at this point. Have you heard any rumblings about maybe a potential for college program to return down the line somewhere?
I haven't heard anything at all. Unfortunately, I haven't heard a mention of of the college program coming back. The only thing I have heard is that 2021 might be the year the college program comes back. Hopefully, typically the college program will begin mid-January to mid-February. That's usually a start date for when they have the spring and spring advantage come in. For those that do not know, when you do the Disney college program, you can pick essentially a part of a trimester. You can either come in the springtime. You can do spring advantage, which is a longer period beginning in the springtime. You can do summer, or you can do fall and fall advantage, which is you would start in the fall and you would end somewhere in the next year. But I haven't heard anything at all. It's terrible, but Disney has to give their love and attention to their full-time, part-time, and seasonal cast members before they give anything to the college program, because the college program, it's studying abroad. It's not a necessary factor. Granted, they are cheap labor, but they are not needed if you want to find, like, they're not needed overall. Like, they do give a lot, but you got to give your attention to the people that have been with you for years on years on years. And when I heard that the seniority rankings at Walt Disney World and Disney are still remaining, that is huge, because I've heard so many times with cast members saying, like, I've been here 14 years. I picked my shifts first. I am a morning person, blah, blah, blah. And so it's good that they're not just saying, you're gone. When you come back, we'll figure it all out. So it's nice that they're keeping some of the hierarchy there, because I know so many cast members are very, very, I'm trying to think of the correct word. They're very passionate about their position in the company and how many years they've worked there, because for many people, they've worked at Disney since opening day at Walt Disney World, which is going on 50. And they worked in my department in entertainment, where they said, oh, I get to pick the shifts I want. I always want the breakfast shift, because then I'm in, I'm out. But going back to the original question, nothing I've heard for the college program has happening at all. I haven't even heard anything on Twitter regarding it. Like, it seems like Disney leadership, the ones that are still around, haven't even mentioned it, because that is not their priority. The priority right now is handling the unions and handling the furloughs. But that's all I've heard.
Right, as the hourly non-union and salaried, as we had mentioned, were sort of excused into furlough recently and given their dates. Now each individual union is being worked with, and it sort of sounds to me like the more that I'm seeing these union deals come through, it's very similar to what everybody is receiving. It's all very similar across each front as to what cast members are receiving. We never want to see any cast members struggle or go through this, but currently the world is going through this, and definitely something that we wish everybody the best on, because we know how hard it must be.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.